Tonight on SCTV3, see the highlights from the annual National Girls and Women in Sports Clinic.
Plus, we speak to longtime Director of Sports Communication, Brian McGoffin, about his transition to a new position.
All that and more tonight on SCTV3.
Hello and welcome to tonight's edition of SCTV3 Weekly News. I'm Emma Bynes.
And I'm Kyle Valentine. Thank you for joining us.
We begin tonight with the annual National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Hundreds of kids in grades K through 6 packed the field house this past Sunday and took part in various stations focused on different sports. Springfield College women's teams like soccer and volleyball, among others, led the girls through basic activities like setting passes in volleyball.
The college first started hosting the event in 2014. For those involved, it provides a unique opportunity to mentor the next generation of female athletes. SCTV3's Brian Weiss was in attendance and talked to the athletes and faculty leading the event.
On Sunday, Springfield College hosted its annual National Girls and Women in Sports Day event, honoring female athletes. Several of our women's athletic teams here on campus hold clinics for girls in grades kindergarten through 6th, where they participate in activities and meet Springfield's female athletes. The event has been held every February for over 30 years at Springfield College, with Michelle Lisacina acting as the point person of the event for the last 8 years. Michelle speaks on what drives her to keep the tradition of this great event going.
I just think it's a great opportunity for little kids to learn from our amazing student athletes who are here teaching all their sports and just getting them to learn to love sports and learn leadership skills and all kinds of other awesome skills that they can learn today.
Before the fun began, pole vaulter for the track and field team, Ella Smith, spoke to all the young girls and was honored to do so and inspire the next generation of women in sports.
I was really honored when Michelle asked me to speak because advocacy in sport is a big thing that I believe in, and especially like planting those seeds with the younger generation so that they can grow and flourish and let us pass the torch, and then they can keep the games going.
After a fun-filled day, the girls and their new role models at Springfield College ate snacks and pizza. They were then encouraged to head over to Blake Arena to support another women's athletic team when women's gymnastics had a tri-meet. The girls made a good showing at the meet, but it was not before a long day of fun and games.
How much fun are you having today?
Very fun.
A lot of fun?
Yeah.
What's been your favorite sport so far?
Track and field.
It was great seeing our very own Springfield College athletes out here encouraging the youth, and the kids did great. Reporting for SCTV3, I'm Brian Weiss.
The organizers of the annual clinic hope the young girls leave with a clear message. Don't be afraid to try new things.
On Monday, the Pride Cares Initiative held their 2025 spring graduation. Pride Cares, the campus's peer-to-peer support group, celebrated the graduation of their spring cohort. The graduates received a green tag to show they're a peer ally, a symbol for students in need of help. The graduation had multiple speakers, including this year's keynote speaker, Brian McGoffin. After he spoke, the newest members walked across Dodge and received their Pride Care certificates from the facilitators that guided them in their journey. Senior Megan Perry was amongst the graduates and spoke on her decision to join Pride Cares.
I'm actively involved in a lot of different aspects on campus. I'm in monologues, I'm in rugby, and I just wanted to make sure that those peers in those groups with me knew that if they felt like they had no one to go to, they could come to me and I would have resources and I'd be able to help them and get them the help that they need.
The Pride Cares initiative is based in the Counseling Center on the first floor of Massasoit Hall.
The Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion hosted a discussion last Tuesday night centered around the 2013 film 42. Starring the late Chadwick Boseman, 42 tells the story of Jackie Robinson's debut with the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1946 and the racism he endured from fans, fellow players, and managers. Robinson is often recognized as a notable figure in the civil rights movement. Attendees of the event reflected upon how Robinson's experiences mirrored the greater struggles of black athletes throughout history. Further discussions examined racism's widespread prevalence within the sports even today. Thomas Donato shared why Robinson's lasting legacy is important to appreciate.
These events are really important. We have several to celebrate Black History Month, and obviously it's an Affinity Month, and we really want to celebrate the history of black individuals, of black culture, and really put it in a spotlight because it's a very special time to be here at Springfield College and have hopefully honest and insightful conversations.
The event provided an open forum for discussion, reflection, and learning. The Office of DEI encourages students to continue these conversations beyond events like these.
CAP hosted a Price is Right themed game show in the campus union last Friday. Students grabbed whiteboards to write down their guesses as the items were shown on the screen. The object of the game was to get as close to the retail price of the item as possible. The closest guess to the actual price was awarded with a series of prizes. Most students received a number of gift cards to places like Domino's, Dunkin', or Amazon. The grand prize was a basket of candy and a 40-inch Roku television. Keep up to date with the latest CAB events on their Instagram at SCTV3.
Every Wednesday, students receive an email from the Center for Service and Leadership regarding donating extra meal swipes for the Swipe Out for Hunger program. Swipe Out Hunger is a national nonprofit organization that has partnered with a college to provide meal swipes for those who cannot afford them. Whether they have the unlimited meal plan or a certain number of swipes per week, all meal plans cost extra on top of tuition. Students can donate their extra meal swipes for the week by clicking on the Swipe Out Hunger icon on PrideNet homepage and filling out the form, or donate their guest swipes via the Get app on their phone. Assistant Director for the Center for Service and Leadership, Danielle Griffith, explained just how critical this program can be.
As cost of living is increasing, the need is there. So the way that the program runs is that students that have meal plans donate meals that they're not going to use within that week. And then students that are in need can apply and go through the review process to see if they qualify to receive any meals.
In addition to students with an unlimited meal plan, those with a weekly 14 or weekly 7 meal plans are also urged to contribute their extra meals, as this semester has seen a shortage in donations.
The college announced that the 6th annual Student vs. Faculty basketball game is taking place Thursday, March 27th at 7 in Blake Arena. If there is a faculty or staff member students would like to see participate in the upcoming game, now is the time to submit their nomination. Each student should be able to access the nomination form through a link provided in their email. The staff team will consist of approximately 20 to 25 staff and faculty members from across campus. In addition, they will be nominating certain students they wish to see take the court, so anyone may be selected to play in the game. The tradition is widely celebrated for bringing together staff and students in a way that truly honors the history of the college.
Will the unexpected warmer temps keep up with next week? We now turn it over to Sam McGilpin in Studio B with our local and national weather update. Sam?
Thanks, Kyle. This week sees some pretty inconsistent weather. Friday and Saturday aren't too chilly, and both lacrosse teams will see good weather this weekend with some sunshine, but Sunday drops massively with a high of only 26 and doesn't get much better with 31 on Monday. Thankfully, it will be clear skies, so sun is on full blast. Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday start to become spring weather, but some unfortunate rainstorms could be coming. Now turning to some national news. A storm around Seattle has resulted in a dangerous amount of trees falling and hitting power lines. Two children and an adult were rescued after a large tree fell on top of a car Monday evening. The department said crews were able to cut the tree apart and rescue the 3 people trapped inside, and crews also reported downed power lines nearby. The National Weather Service said a weather system was forecasted to bring strong winds to the region with gusts between 50 to 60 miles per hour, possible in the Seattle area Monday night into early Tuesday morning, but the strongest wind gusts were seen along the Pacific coast. By the time the storm yielded, at least 30,800 people were without power in western Washington. As of this morning, electric crews are working to restore power to houses, mostly in western Washington state. Back to you in Studio A.
After the break, see a Q&A with Brian McGoffin, where he details his move from the longtime director of sports communication to a new position working with the Board of Trustees.
Oh, Vanessa. You gonna text her back?
Nope. I'm high. I'm gonna hit the treadmill.
You're already making good decisions when you're high.
We need to go meet the guys. I'm lit. Can you drive?
Nope. I'm high. How about they come over?
Where?
Don't make an exception when it comes to driving. If you feel different, you drive different.
At the start of the spring semester, Brian McGoffin accepted a new role with the Board of Trustees and the Office of the President. McGoffin had been working with the Springfield College Athletics Department for 18 years. SCTV3's Tucker Paquette caught up with McGoffin about the transition to the President's office and what he misses about working in athletics.
Maybe about 18 months ago, I had the opportunity to get a little bit more involved with the Office of the President and maybe help out with President Cooper's communications or just some overall campus communications. And with that said, then there was positions that were opening on campus and some restructuring that was taking place at the leadership level. And there was an opportunity for me to come over to this side of campus and to maybe expand on my impact with the Board of Trustees and with the Office of the President from a communication standpoint. I'm learning all this new software that I'm good with keeping basketball stats. I'm good with understanding how to do football, but this was, it's been a learning curve for sure. I'm not afraid to work. I'm not afraid to put in the effort to learn these things. It's just taking a little bit of time when you're 41 years old and you're kind of starting over from scratch. So I think with that, it's been really reassuring for me that I took a bet on myself, that I said, I think there might be more for me out there. Not that I'm not super passionate about what I did during athletics, but just having the opportunity to maybe expand my reach. When you spend so many years working with our teacher coaches and our student athletes and our fellow administrators, that day-to-day office interaction, what things look like on game days, the highs and lows that come with wins and losses, is certainly something that there's a missing piece of it for me in my life. The mission that we have here is timeless, and it has guided our students and our faculty and our staff for generations. And seeing the transformative experience that happens here on Alden Street, that sees who our students are when they come in during NSO, and then what happens when they shake Dr. Cooper's hand and walk across the stage on graduation, there's a transformation that happens.
McGoffin is in charge of communication for the Office of the President, so he still gets to do some of the same work he did while with athletics.
And now we turn our attention to some national headlines from this past week. Yesterday, the Supreme Court heard a case that could drastically change how courts view discrimination claims. More specifically, quote, reverse discrimination, end quote, claims which was at the forefront of the hearing. SCTV3's Linnea Delgado has more on the case and its possible impact.
This is clearly what was the issue and didn't want to go outside of that realm, which I applaud them for.
When a position opened up as Bureau Chief, Marlene Ames was the right candidate given her decade-long employment with the Ohio Department of Youth Services. However, Ames claimed she was demoted and the colleague who replaced her shortly after was gay, and the person who received the promotion of Bureau Chief was also gay.
You're gay, or whether you're black, or whether you're white, everyone should be treated the same.
This issue happens in about a third of the country's federal courts, including Ohio's, that require people filing suit to prove a pattern of historical discrimination, a burden non-minority groups can't always show.
The question presented is whether a majority group plaintiff has to show something more than a minority group plaintiff.
It seems in Ames's case that the justices are siding with her.
It doesn't matter if she was gay or whether she was straight, she would have the exact same burden and be treated the exact same way under Title VII if she sued as someone who was gay and argued that they were discriminated against under Title VII.
Ohio officials deny Ames' claims and say she was demoted as part of a broader restructuring of the department. The Supreme Court could send the case back down to lower courts for additional proceedings. With SCTV3, I'm Linnea Delgado.
The Supreme Court is expected to deliver its ruling in the case this summer.
A large group of federal workers marched on Capitol Hill earlier this week. The protest centered around an opposition to the newly established Department of Government Efficiency led by Elon Musk. The group was a mix of workers that have already been fired or those who were facing termination. In a memo from DOJ, workers were asked to list their accomplishments over the past week or face losing their jobs. SCTV3's Morgan Barboza has more on this developing story.
Federal workers impacted by government-wide layoffs tried to voice their concerns to lawmakers on Capitol Hill Tuesday. The visit came after Elon Musk doubled down on his new directive to federal employees to report their accomplishments over the past week, saying workers have a second chance or face termination.
We said if you don't respond, we assume you're not around.
But following pushback from some federal agencies, a new memo from the administration's Office of Personnel Management leaves it up to the individual agencies as to how to proceed. Some, including the Department of Defense, Justice, and DHS, told employees not to respond to the email, while others, including transportation and education, were told to comply. Unions representing federal employees have slammed Elon Musk's latest move, saying the workers report to the agencies that employ them, not to the Department of Government Efficiency.
Kind of an invasion, I feel like. We already have a chain of command that we follow that know what we do every day.
CBS has learned the Office of Personnel Management has asked at least some agencies to start tracking how many probationary or newer employees have been fired and how many employees have taken the buyout offer. Robert McCabe, who was fired from the IRS, says he voted for Trump.
I wasn't voting for a king. I'm not voting for a dictator who is just going to do his whim.
Facing heat from Constitutionists, some Republican lawmakers are now calling for the administration to slow down and study the impacts of widespread cuts. Reporting for SCTV3, I'm Morgan Barboza.
The Trump administration is giving all government agencies 2 weeks to submit plans for reorganization to properly prepare for these large-scale mass layoffs, which is confirmed to be a nearly 90% cut.
Early yesterday morning, an airplane crashed into the top of Mount Equinox in Manchester, Vermont. Emergency services received a call around 8 from the pilot. He and 2 passengers were airlifted to the hospital once crews responded to the scene. SCTV3's River Mitchell has more.
Yesterday morning at around 8:30 a.m., 3 individuals were involved in a plane crash into the top of Mount Equinox in Manchester, Vermont. 2 of the passengers on the plane were airlifted to Dartmouth Medical Center. The other was sent to Albany. While the foggy conditions could have played a role in the crash, it is still yet to be determined and undergoing investigation.
There's really no way you can train to this point. It's just one of them things you just kind of have to go with the flow.
The crash created a challenging situation for the fire department and other first responders. With over 100 first responders from Vermont and New York, the deep snow and remote location of the incident proved to be problematic.
It's such a challenge. I mean, obviously the terrain's a challenge. Getting people here, it's one of them times during the day where people are at work. It's hard to get, enough manpower here, which at this point you need a lot of manpower. But we were able to pull a lot of people from other departments who actually made a big difference.
However, local officials say the open terrain at the top of the mountain and the depth of snow could have played a role in there being no serious injuries. On top of this, it's also created waves in the community.
We live here and we don't normally have things like that happening. Certainly, big disasters like that.
Reporting for SCTV3, I'm River Mitchell.
The Federal Aviation Administration will be in Manchester tomorrow to investigate the cause of the crash.
When we come back, Shane Barron has the latest highlights and updates with Pride Athletics on Sports Extra.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Jules, spot me on this last one. There it is.
Keep going with it. Leo! They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of SCTV3 Sports Extra. I'm Shane Barron, bringing you all the latest on Pride Athletics. Here's a recap of how Springfield College athletics performed. Going against number 3 ranked team in the country, number 7 ranked men's volleyball defeated Vassar over the weekend in 3 sets. Springfield also swept Elms, now putting their record to 12-2. They will play Stevens on the road this Saturday, who has taken over the number 3 ranking with Springfield now at 4. Pride's women's basketball fell to 6th seed last night in a nail-biting NUMAC quarterfinal held in Blake Arena. After a buzzer-beater 3, the Pride held a 51-43 lead going into the 4th, but the Engineers crawled back, forcing an overtime and won 70-65. The Pride ends its season with a record of 15-11 following a loss in NUMAC tournament play. Both Springfield College lacrosse teams have gotten 2 games under their belt, but both have had polar opposite starts. SCTV3's Sam McGilpin has more. Went away against Union, while women's lacrosse tries to get to 3-0 on Stag against Endicott. Now on to our weekly schedule preview. This weekend, swimming and diving hosts the NCAA regionals for the first time since 2020. Baseball kicks off its season with a doubleheader against Western New England. Women's lacrosse competes in its second home game of the year against Trinity College. The Pride will be looking for its first all-time win against Trinity. Track and field travels to Boston to compete in the New England Division III Championships. Wrestling battles in a Northeast Regional Championship Saturday and Sunday at Wesleyan after sweeping number 3 Vassar. Men's volleyball now looks to take down another giant in number 3 Stevens Saturday night. To see each team's full schedule, check out SpringfieldCollegePride.com. That'll do it for this week's edition of Sports Extra. Stick around to see the next stop on Patty's Pizza Picks.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
SCTV3's Patrick Fergus is narrowing in on visiting every pizza spot in Springfield. This week, he headed to Napoli Pizzeria to see how they would compare.
We're at Napoli's Pizzeria, 1633 Boston Road. Let's head inside.
A solid bar setup featuring a small counter and a pool table to bring it all together. Some of the windows were busted, and strangely, we sat mostly in silence with a lack of music or any background noise. The menu was pretty standard, and the service was not as fast as you'd like. I opted for a large cheese, which came out steaming. Unfortunately, this pizza suffered from the dreaded cheese drag. The cheese was continually sliding off because there was too much sauce.
So we got one of these more difficult slices, a lot of flop on there. So you know it's real cheese. Stretches. Good cheese, decent sauce. I'm not liking the crust that much. It's very light, but it doesn't have a lot of flavor or crunch to it.
Napoli pizza had some decent flavor, but was truly a burden to eat, landing at a solid 3 stars. Taking a look at the updated standings, Napoli moves into a virtual tie for 10th place, as we have seen very little movement at the top of the rankings for a while now. Reporting for SCTV3, I'm Pizza Pat.
That's all tonight on SCTV3 Weekly News. Thank you for joining us.
If you missed any of our live broadcasts or want to see more stories, check out our YouTube channel, SCTV3, and tune in next week.
Same time,
same place.